This week appears to be following a familiar pattern for Manchester United, with lots of optimism following the completion of the Jim Ratcliffe minority buy-in of the club, and the round of interviews he undertook, explaining his hopes and aspirations for the club, followed by probably the worst performance of the season. What I'm going to aim to do is break down the week day by day, trying to separate the good from the bad and the bad from the shit. So let's get going and start with potentially the best news this club has had for 19 years, and that's the reduction of the amount of shares owned by the Glazer family, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe becoming one of, if not the biggest individual shareholder in Manchester United. This draws to a close the unnecessarily protracted sales process. The Glazers started in November 2022. In that time, we have had to endure possible fake shakes, mad Finns who wanted the fans to put up half the money, the hope of a full sale, and the disappointment of knowing that the Glazers would be staying in some capacity. But now, with things seemingly completed, Big Jim, as he is becoming known by a section of the fan base, isn't wasting any time, with the promise of the football being the primary focus, a possible new stadium, and the apparent desire to steal the top administrators from their rivals. Big Jim seems to be embracing the ability to piss off not just the fans of other clubs, but their owners too. In the back of this good news overload, United fans looked set to bounce into the weekend on a wave of good news, with a home game to come against inconsistent opposition, who haven't won an away game since the start of the season. This new wave quickly started to turn into a river of shit with the news that our latest great white hope Rasmus Højlund had got injured in training and would miss the next 2 to 3 weeks after spending the first 3 months of the season waiting for his first league goal. The lad had scored 7 goals in his last 6 games, and just as we were starting to believe we could be onto something, and were starting to play better, our hopes were dashed, on top of the injury to Lisandro Martinez. It just felt like someone had decided that United fans were just too happy. Still, despite the sudden downturn in luck, we could still hold out some hope that the side we could put out would be good enough to turn over a Fulham side not known for their backbone, as has often been the way this season. It soon became clear that we had seriously overestimated this current United side, and as a cobbled-together Fulham side were made to look like vintage AC Milan. Our spineless, lazy players accepted their fate. A late and undeserved Harry Maguire equalizer was followed by our best headless chicken impression as we played with the same zero-game intelligence we previewed in the closing minutes of the Luton game, and careered around the pitch looking for a winner that would have took the piss, but never have papered over the cracks that the previous 90 minutes and season as a whole had exposed. It surprised absolutely no one watching when Fulham sauntered up the pitch, beating of non-existent defense to score easily with seconds to go. TBH, if they had applied themselves as clinically during the previous 90 minutes, it could have been 4 or 5. We were then treated to a view through Erik ten Hag's extremely red-tinted glasses, as he tried in vain to convince the watching public that despite the result and performance we had all just witnessed, the trajectory is upwards. I can only assume he was watching something more uplifting than the shower presented to the rest of us. After a few days, the mist seemed to have cleared, and he later described the performance as unacceptable and being devoid of willingness, spirit, and passion. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view, we had another game coming up more quickly than we have become accustomed to since being knocked out of 2 other competitions already, with an FA Cup tie in midweek against Notts Forest to whet our appetites. There were rumors of yet more injuries, with Maguire being ruled out, and question marks over Bruno Fernandes and Rafa Varane. The cherry on top being rumors of Rashford and Ten Hag barely being on speaking terms. As it turned out, both Varane and Bruno were able to play in a game that the media were falling over themselves to compare with the game 34 years prior. That has come to be regarded as the game that saved Alex Ferguson's job. In a game that United started well, that initial enthusiasm soon ebbed away, and Forest came more into the game. Fortunately, they possess as equally inept forwards as we do, with them being unable to hit anything other than spectators situated either side of the goals. A game that was staggering towards extra time, and what would presumably have been a very poor display of penalty-taking finally managed to spare us all that particular pain, with Casemiro stooping to head a Bruno free kick in at the near post in the final minutes. With the now ubiquitous 5-minute VAR delay to measure the Nats' dick offside decision, and Casemiro reopening the head wound, that led to his substitution against Fulham. Seemingly by smacking his own head in celebration, the game petered out, leaving United with the dubious reward of a home tie against Liverpool in the quarter-finals. Before that, we can all look forward to a game against Manchester City, which pitches a City side containing some of the best players in Europe, and a goal-scoring machine who scored 5 in midweek, with a Manchester United side equipped with a defense without 2 of our starting players, without a fallback in the shape of Harry Maguire, an underperforming Bruno, a smacked arse of a left forward in Marcus Rashford playing up front, a genuine lack of all-round effort and appetite for a challenge, and our only genuine forward sat in the stands. Enjoy!